Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at one of the finest hinges available for standard types of applications. I am an unabashed, huge fan of Stanley, and it's because I like their fit and finish. This product is a really great example of quality manufacturing on something that none of us really pay a lot of attention to. A door hinge, who cares? This happens to be a pretty sophisticated variant of a door hinge. So this is in the color that you're seeing on the camera. Admittedly, is a lot more like satin brass than it is satin bronze. It's got to have everything to do with my light source, but when I look at it with my eyes and not, I don't know the science behind how the camera manipulates the color, but it certainly does. This, to your eyes, would certainly look very much like satin brass, a 606 finish, but I assure you that that is a very nice satin bronze finish. You can tell how the difference in base materials affects the finish. This is a great example. This is all satin bronze. This is 612 finish. That means that it tells us the base material is made of bronze and that there's a satin bronze finish on it. I put that magnet on there because this is a ball bearing hinge. That bearing packet, that's going to have steel in it. Now, admittedly, I don't know that my magnet is picking up the ball bearings or the outer housing. But it would have everything to do with either the base material, and I highly doubt this is steel, but the finish is going to be a little bit different because of how that material is obviously worked in the manufacturing process, however that's actually done. This is Stanley's FBB199. This is a flagship hinge, meaning it is heavyweight, it is ball bearing, it is solid bronze. This is going to be a hinge that you're going to use in applications. I don't know where this is going. It certainly could be residential, where somebody wants a non-ferrous base material, brass, bronze, stainless steel. This could be going into a library where the adherence to true architectural finishes is important. And what I mean by that is you can order satin bronze you can order satin bronze by lots of people, but we get more particular when we call it 612 finish. Now, Stanley's calling it 10, which means US 10, which means satin bronze. US 10 is a very old system, maybe pushing 100 years old, if not older. I don't know exactly the first instance of when that occurred, but pre-World War II for sure. US 10 told us satin bronze, but it didn't tell us the base material. Well, if you go back to catalogs, from World War I of architectural hardware, manufacturers like Corbin, or like Yale, or people who would have made hardware that focused on residential applications, of which there are several and many archival catalogs that we have on the site. They all had their own codes, like Colombian bronze. Okay, what does that look like? I have no idea. Some of those catalogs are so old, photography was definitely not in the mainstream. So at some point, the government stepped in and said, we need a standardized system. So these people use US numbers still, because Stanley's been making hinges since Polk, Polk was president probably, so they're still using US 10. Even though there is a better system by the Builders Hardware Manufacturers Association called BHMA, that if I take US 10 and turn it into a solid bronze hinge, it's going to be 612. Well, if you want satin bronze but on steel, that's going to be 639. Now you can see why it's important to understand its base material, because the finish is not going to be the same. The finish on bronze versus the finish on steel when you're doing satin bronze is not going to be the same finish. And to the layman, it's going to look very similar. To the trained eye, it's anything but. And I would argue that architects would certainly possess the trained eye, designers, specifiers, detailers, door hardware distributors. Anyway, so there's information down below for use on heavyweight doors or doors where high frequency is expected, such as entrance doors to office building, stores, public buildings, corridor entrance doors to offices. All hinges have template screw hole pattern for use on either wood or hollow metal doors and frames. Okay, 180 thousandths of an inch thick. This hinge is heavyweight by virtue of the fact that it is 4.5 by 4.5 and it's classified as heavyweight. This is going to have a leaf thickness of 180 thousandths. If this was classified as a standard weight hinge, it would be 134 thousandths. And my caliper tells me that it's 0.175, so that's going to be heavyweight. Brass or bronze base material, that's going to be dependent on the finish that you're doing. Polished brass would be made of brass. Your bronzes will be made of bronze. Satin bronze, polished bronze. Polished bronze is a gorgeous finish. If you like these coppery brown type colors. Oil rubbed is going to be bronze based material. Stainless steel pin, because they're going for non-ferrous. Those bearings in there, they're certainly going to be steel based because this is a heavyweight hinge. It's going to be expected to swing a 200-pound door for the rest of its life, every day, hundreds of times a day. So those bearings are going to be steel. 5-knuckle. Part of the FBB199 tells us that it is a 5-knuckle hinge. Let's dissect that part number. FBB199. This is a full mortise hinge. You can see from the swag on the hinge leaves there, right here. When you bring the leaves parallel, they're meant to be mortised flush to the edge of the door and frame. Okay. This is a 5-knuckle hinge by virtue of that part number. It is 199 heavyweight and non-ferrous based. So you could have an FBB 199 32D, which is stainless steel. It'll be a satin stainless finish over a steel base, satin over a stainless steel base material. And as you change the componentry of that part number, you obviously get a different hinge. 4.5, 4.5. The height is the first dimension. Always be mindful of that. On a square hinge, you can get away without knowing what the height is in the dimension. But if you're dealing with a 4.5 by 6, or a 5 by 4.5, or a 4 by 3.5, or a 4.5 by 4, which is very common, it's really important to tell your door guy the height is the first dimension. Well, it's important for you to understand when you order the hinge, the height is the first dimension on hinges. It's the opposite of how doors are sized, so be mindful of that. There is a link below this video to a document called Template. Before we get to that, this is available in satin bronze, oil rub bronze, polished brass, satin chrome, stainless steel satin, stainless steel polished. Being Stanley, they can very likely do other finishes as well. I find them a bit less accommodating, and not to detract from them. But if I asked for black, that may be, black is the new oil rub bronze these days. They may not be accommodating on that. I don't need the tape measure anymore. The location for the holes are defined on the template. The template is the technical drawing showing you the location of the holes. We also term the specific and exact location of these holes on this size hinge as a template pattern. So the term is used two different ways. That chart will show you the dimensions for lots of their different hinges, their part numbers, and their different sizes. Okay, but you'll certainly notice that the location from the outside leaf to the vertical center line and the ends of the leaf to the center line do not change. So if you're doing a 4.5 by 4 or a 4.5 by 8, you're going to have those holes in the same location. The only thing that really changes is how wide this portion is on there. They said earlier that you're going to get all wood screws and all machine screws. That is indeed the fact. That's nice. So if you are dealing with a wood door and wood frame, which is very common, friends of mine whose home I was just at have a pair of 3'6" by 8' arch top. They have Stanley CB concealed bearing hinges on there. Wood door, wood frame. So when you're ordering the hinges, it's nice that you're getting all machine and all wood door, wood frame, wood door steel frame, vice versa, steel door steel frame. But it would be appropriate to specify the hinge screw type or the composition of the door and frame when you're ordering the material. That would be best practice to always include that information. Okay, so that template you can review if you are replacing hinges. By all means, double check what you're doing. Being Stanley hinges, they do always include some cardboard shims. Don't use these on fire-rated doors. That would technically void the fire rating of the opening. You need to use steel shims, but if you're using this hinge, you don't have a fire door, because fire doors cannot have brass or bronze base material. They can have steel or stainless steel base material hinges. This would not be a fire-rated door at all. Okay. So finally, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Stanley products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. The name Stanley is utterly synonymous with hinges. I would very much recommend that you review the Stanley product catalog, because the first several pages of the catalog is literally the book on hinges. It's an encyclopedic approach on, oh, you'd like to learn about hinges? This would be a great place to start, because they'll talk about full mortise, full surface, half mortise, half surface, raised barrel, swing clear, wide throw, unequal leaf, options on all of that, sizes, load ratings for hinges, finishes, on and on and on and on, special fasteners. And it's a great way to intimately familiarize yourself with hinges. If you have any questions on the FBB199 and a 4.5 and a US 10 finish, 612 finish, or any other Stanley product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.